So how do you think welfare and efficiency under monopolistic competition compared to the other two types of market structures that we've taken a look at so far? So it wouldn't be surprising to say that, hey, monopolistic competition is going to be a little bit more efficient compared to a monopoly, but it's not going to be as efficient as perfect competition. So if you remember the perfect competition case, if we want to compare against that market structure, remember that in the long run, we had a demand curve that was horizontal, it was perfectly elastic, and it was going to hit the minimum of our ATC curve. And that was where price equals to ATC, and every single firm under that market structure was earning zero economic profit. So go back to that slide, go back to the illustration to see exactly what was happening there. However, under monopolistic competition, we notice that the demand curve is now intersecting somewhere on the ATC curve that is not at the minimum, but once again, price is still equal to ATC, so every single firm is earning zero economic profits once again. So we hit the two sort of characteristics of each of these market structures where every single firm is earning normal profits. But here in the long run, we notice that price is going to be higher under monopolistic competition compared to perfect competition. And that just tells us that, hey, monopolistic competition is not going to be as efficient compared to perfect competition itself. So therefore, there's less efficiency, there's less welfare under this market structure. So we can compare these two illustrations with one another, and that's exactly what you would see in the long run as we transition from the short run over to the long run. So let's go ahead and write a few of these sort of things down. So as we've already mentioned, prices for monopolistically competitive firms, competitive firms are higher in the long run than under perfect competition. Are higher in the long run compared to perfect competition. Perfect competition. And remember that under perfect competition, that's exactly where we hit the minimum of the ATC curves. We don't see that under monopolistically competitive market structures. And because prices are now higher in the long run, we do notice that, hey, monopolistically competitive firms are probably not as efficient as perfect competition. So here, monopolistically competitive market structure is not as efficient as perfect competition. We'll say market structures are not as efficient as perfect competition. And like we said when we built this up under perfect competition is the only market structure where we see total surplus being maximized. So under monopolistically competitive market structures, there's probably going to be some type of deadweight loss that we can illustrate. And the reason why we see not as much efficiency or welfare is because these differentiated products are going to go ahead and target certain subgroups or niches within the marketplace. They don't try to target everybody within the entire sort of consumer base. They just try to hone their products and focus in on a few select group members in order to sort of get the most that they can. That's where this is exactly why prices are going to be higher in the long run. It's not going to hit the minimum of the ATC. So what we see right here is that these differentiated products, they don't try to target everybody. They just try to hit some niches or sub-markets as they call them. So differentiated products create niches or sub-markets. And these niches or sub-markets are essentially what these monopolistically competitive firms are trying to focus in or hit on a little bit more. So within each industry. And when they hit on these niches or sub-markets, when they try to target their products, not for everybody, but for these certain groups right here, when they target these specific consumer groups, that's exactly where we see a higher price and a lower quantity in the long run. So higher prices, and lower quantity in the long run. And that's exactly why we see that monopoly competitive market structures are not as efficient, or they don't generate as much welfare as we do see under perfect competition. And we do see that these differentiated products, there are a lot of niches and sub-markets that we can go ahead and see within, just as an example as a whole. There's just so many of them to sort of talk about. We see a lot of products that are being targeted to certain groups of people rather than for everybody. So what are a few examples that we can sort of think? We can see a lot of this in the dating websites around the world. So go ahead and take a look at these examples right here. So with dating websites, there's a whole bunch of them that target specific groups of people. There's farmersonly.com that target people that have a farm, or they do some type of farm activities. There's 420 singles, if you're sort of a 420 aficionado, you like to smoke weed or smoke trees, that's going to be a dating website for you. If you're a book lover, there's a Likewise. There's Christian Mingle if you focus in on religion just a little bit more. But there's just a whole bunch of differentiated products under the dating industry that create these niches or sub-markets. What happens if you find somebody on one of these dating websites, and what happens if you find love, but the love falls through? There's going to be a niche or a sub-market for you as well. And suppose that you want to go ahead and send a message, you can absolutely do so with dirty, rotten flowers. You don't want to see them anymore. You can send a message by sending them a bouquet of dead flowers. And this is a website that just specializes in focusing in on sending dead flowers to certain groups of people. And if that's something that you want to do, you can absolutely do so. It's roughly about $30 for a bouquet of dead flowers and roses. I think live flowers almost cost as much. So here, if you want to go ahead, that's going to be a specific niche or sub-market, a product that is developed for you. However, suppose that you go ahead and send this message, these bouquet of dead flowers, to that person, but they don't seem to get the message, and they still want to keep on contacting with you. You can go ahead and send an even stronger message by going ahead and send some type of feces to them as well. So as you can see right here, once again, with poop senders, you can go ahead. This is going to be a niche or submarket, a very particular product that is going to be developed for a very specific group of people, and you can actually go ahead and send animal poop to people. So cow, elephant, gorilla, there's a combo pack right here, $44.95. Not really sure if this is a good deal or not for some animal poop, but they accept cash. But this is exactly what we see seeing developed under these sort of monopolistically competitive type of market structures. They're able to charge higher prices, and we do see higher prices in the long run because they're only targeting these specific groups or niches, these sub-markets of people, rather than focusing in on everybody in the entire marketplace. Please don't send me poop, by the way. But as you can see right here, this is exactly what we see in terms of efficiency and welfare under this type of market structure. We see it is more efficient compared to the monopoly, but not as efficient as perfect competition, as we've already laid out previously in the last few chapters. We'll go ahead and take a look at the final market structure with oligopoly. We'll build that up and its 3 models in the next few lectures.